Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we'll be talking about Blazon. But before we do, we just want to remind you to subscribe to us so you can see our videos as they come out, because we have so many awesome and amazing things planned for the rest of this year. Okay, so Blazon is designed by David Coughlin. The artwork is by Eno Toole, and it is published by 25th Century Games.
All right, so I actually have a family crest for one of my sides of the family that traces back a bajillion years.
Bajillion.
And it's actually, displayed prominently in this this building in Michigan. It's kind of when they came over from Bavaria and Germany. But yeah, this is really cool family crest. So I've always kind of been enthralled by that idea of that lineage and the history. It all kind of gets wrapped up into those family crests. Well, guess what? That's exactly what Blazon is all about. You are making your own herald, your own shield, your own family crest, using all these different rules of heraldry in order to emblazon your own shield. So that's what this game is all about. Has some drafting in it, has some tile, card placement with all its own kind of special rules. Let me give you a quick overview of how to play. All right, here is the main board setup for Blazon. On the left side over here, we have these 4 cards plus the deck. Those are our device cards. And then over here on the right side, plus these 2 over here at the face up, those are our tincture cards. Those are all different ways that you can kind of design and modify your shield to get you points. All the cards have a point value based in the middle there. They also have a little kind of design off over here. Those are all different augmentations that might be kind of added to your shield in order to give you special kind of abilities. And also all across the top here are different kinds of ways that you can get distinctions. You're going to be able to acquire those distinctions by fulfilling those set collection items. So for instance, if you're able to complete one of those pink things, one of those little diamonds, and one of those green symbols on your shield, if you're the first person who does that, you're going to be able to get 3 victory points. But also, everyone else is going to get one of these little herald tokens. All right, so how does the game actually work? Well, on your turn, you have basically 2 options. You can either draw 2 cards, or you can place cards on your board. When you draw 2 cards, you're basically going to draw them either from this deck or from this deck. And after you've drawn both cards, then you get a chance to swap out the cards that you just drew with the face-up cards. So if you really, really wanted this blue card, but you were, drawing it from here, and you didn't like what you drew, you could swap those out. The second action is actually putting things on your shield. So when you put something on your shield, it's going to give you some victory points, right? And you're going to be able to score those immediately. But you also need to pay for that card that you placed on there. You have to pay for it by discarding other cards that are either equal to or higher in value than that card. So let's say you had these 3 cards in your hand. If you wanted to play this card here onto your shield, it's worth 5 victory points. You'd have to discard another 5 victory points in order to play that. So you'd put those off into this card pile over here, and you'd place this card onto your shield. Obviously, that was just an example. We were kind of pretending that was our hand. But whenever there's cards left over here that are empty, we're going to refill that from the pile. There are 5 different distinction cards out at a time. They're kind of numbered A, B, C, D, and E. And for each one of those, there is a kind of a stack. So we shuffle up all the A's at the beginning of the game, choose one of them, put it over there. All the B's, shuffle up one, put it there, so on and so forth, until you have 5 different distinction cards, all different things that you can work on to try to get you extra points towards the end of the game. And each one of those distinction cards is going to kind of focus on a combination between the victory points, the prestige value, or the tincture, or the device, or even the augmentation, the kind of symbols on there. Those are super important, so you don't want to miss out on those. You're also going to acquire these herald tokens over the course of the game. And these herald tokens are going to give you a variety of actions that you can take. You can either hold on to it till the end of the game, and it's worth 1 victory point, or over here on the right side of the board, it kind of gives you some of the actions that you can do with that. You can, with this item, you can place a card onto your board and only having to pay 1 victory point instead of whatever you normally would have to pay. Or you can buy a card from the rows over here, or you can kind of refresh the rows, or you can even take the top card of the discard piles, which is kind of nice. All right, here's our own individual player boards. These are our shields that we're going to be playing on. On the outside of each one of these boards is our own personal victory point track. All right, so on the outside, whenever you get to one of these orange spots here, the first person to get to one of those benchmarks is going to be able to get one of these animal tokens to add to their shield. Each one's worth 2 points. It's a great way to kind of decorate your board as well as advance the game a little bit. Now, there are 10 spots on the shield. Each one of them has kind of a top and a bottom section. So if we were to play this, for instance, we want to line that up so that it matches the top or the bottom the right way, just like it does there. But also, remember, you have to pay for it. It has a 2 on it. You have to discard that, in order to play that card. But one of the tricky rules of this game is, once you have chosen whether you use the top or the bottom section of a particular row, you have to use that same top or bottom on that entire rest of the row. So from here on out, we're going to be locked into using the bottom section of that entire third row there. Certain spots of the board are dedicated specifically for tinctures. We have kind of 3 of those all over the third column here, as well as we have some spots for tinctures over here as well. All across the top row there, any tinctures that you place cannot be identical. Same thing over here. These 2 spots, they cannot be identical. You have to have different tinctures in those areas. Over here on your board, these are your cubes that you're going to use to show that you've achieved one of the distinction cards back on the main board. Also over here, this is an abatement token. This is basically kind of like a negative thing. You can choose to use that in order to break one rule of placement in the game. But if you use it, it's worth -8 victory points into the game. So it's really, you want to really make sure you're using that wisely. Must get you at least 8 points in order to use that. There's a number of different ways that the end of the game can be triggered. If one player lands on or passes the 50 mark on their board up here at the corner, that's going to trigger the end of the game. Or if one player fills the entire board, that's also going to trigger the end of the game. Or if a player claims their final distinction award, if they're able to be on all 5 of those cards. Once a player triggers the end of the game, then all other players take one final turn. After that, what you're going to do is you're going to add up all of your victory points. You've been getting victory points all along by adding your different cards onto the board, but also you're going to get some additional victory points for unused herald tokens, all the animal tokens that you have, like these ones. You're also going to get 2 points if you filled the entire board, kind of a bonus there. Don't forget, you're going to lose 8 points if you use your abatement token. And then also your distinctions, don't forget about those. You get all those points, you're going to add them all up, and whoever has the most prestige points at the end of the game wins.
I really liked those distinction cards, and in a lot of games like this where you're doing your own thing, but then everybody's working to get like these bonus things, sometimes you can kind of ignore them and you'll still be okay. And that is not the case. I found when we were playing this game, you really just can't ignore those. Like, you have to try and go for those if you want to be competitive at all. And I really like that. I like that you couldn't ignore it. I liked that you had to watch what other people were doing to see if they were trying to go for a certain one. So maybe you could try to go for a different one if you just like knew it wasn't going to happen. And you really had to like plan for that. You couldn't just willy-nilly try to go for one of those. You really had to think about it, look at your board, figure out what's going to happen, and not ignore it.
At the beginning of the game, when your shield is empty, you have a lot of options, right? But as you're drafting cards and you're making the choices to play them on your board, all your choices kind of shrink down a little bit. Once you place them at the top of a row, then all the rest of the cards in that same row have to stay across the top, and that means that there's some cards that you have in your hand that are just all of a sudden no longer available. And that's okay, though, because you can use those cards to then pay to place other cards. So I kind of liked how your choices kind of got limited and tighter and smaller as the game went on. You had to kind of dig for cards a little deeper, get more creative in how you were going to get things going. So, and the fact that there was kind of an open row of cards you can kind of switch out from as well, kind of helped you along as you're going through this.
This game was incredibly straightforward, too. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like a card drafting tableau building game. Like, that's all you're doing. You're getting cards or you're playing cards. And so it was really straightforward and it was really easy to teach. But, like, I just really like it when a game is so simple and it's easy to learn, but to play it and to play it well is not necessarily as simple as it is to learn it. And I felt like Blazon definitely did this. There was a lot of times where we're pretty fast players when we play games, and there was a lot of times where I had to pause for much longer than I normally do when we play games, because I was like, okay, so if I do this, that means I can't do that, which means I can't get that card, but I also can't afford to get this card, so maybe I should just draft. Oh no, I'm at 7. I have to play a card. Loved that.
Yeah, I agree. This game had a whole lot going for it. This was a very unique theme for a game, definitely unexplored theme, and I thought that was really, really cool. At the same time, there's a lot of history behind the idea of heraldry, right? The idea behind all these family crests and shields and those kinds of things. Lots and lots of history behind that. One thing I would notice, in the rulebook, there's these awesome little cool paragraphs and notations about that theming, but then at the same time, I would suggest not reading those as you are learning the game. You actually just want to read the rulebook for the game's sake, learn the game, and then move on. Later on, come back and read all that cool details, because, I tried reading it as it was popping up, as it was actually printed down.
Yeah.
And There's
You're
just
just
so much
confused.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much language and descriptions and words and the rules that go into making these. There's just, all these really well defined. It's like the language combined with like a
Yeah.
science and art
Yeah.
into making these shields. I thought that was really fun to learn, but it also like overwhelmed my head as I was trying to figure out the game at the same time.
There's a company that I really like called Genius Games, and they do a bunch of games that are based on science, and they have a rule book and then a separate the science behind the game. Like, why are we doing this? And it makes a lot of sense. And it would have been fun to have like that separate. Like, here's
Exactly.
the game.
Here's the history.
Here's why we're doing that stuff. So if you just wanted to get straight into play it, you could totally do that. And then if you wanted to know, why am I doing this? This is why you're doing it. Overall, I really liked this game. I had a lot of fun with it. I can't win it for some reason, but I still had a lot of fun trying to like build this up and trying to draft the cards and trying to get all those bonuses and trying to get like the animals and trying to beat Ryan to that, but ended up just getting a lot of those like ink things. Didn't help me.
Negative points.
Yeah, no, not the ink spot, the like extra token.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which was like really necessary. So it made it to where I didn't lose by a lot. I just lost by little, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is super fun. I love the theme. This is a keeper.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider leaving us a tip. There's a link down below telling you how to do that. Until then, don't make sure to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out, and you can follow us in all of these places.
Yes, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.